Today on Conversations Aloud, we're discussing the future of US politics, but this time through the eyes of the younger generation. We're joined by Jacob Francy, who is our youngest guest so far. But don't let his age fool you. He's a Tennessee organizer, writer, and youth political leader. He's also worked on major congressional and Senate campaigns. Welcome to the show, Jacob.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have you. So, Jacob, just for the audience, you are in high school, right?
Yes.
Last year in high school. When did you first realize that politics wasn't just something that happens in Washington, but something that you wanted to be directly involved in?
Yeah. So in the United States, we have a lot of different issues, obviously, but one of the biggest ones that is unique to us is gun violence. And every student can attest to a fear or some day where they're like, what happens if someone breaks in? What happens if one of my friends is shot and killed? Because it is a regular occurrence in our country. Every month we have to do an intruder drill where we are told to walk inside a basement, lock ourselves inside a room, turn off all the lights, and just hide in a corner. So that is a reality in America. And so I learned from a young age, like, there is a problem. And I realized this shouldn't be a normal occurrence. And when my former school was one of the victims in Nashville, right across the street from me, in Covenant School in 2023, I decided to take action because our state lawmakers didn't do anything afterwards. They held a special session in the state house, the state senate, in which they provided zero legislation for gun control or gun safety whatsoever. So that's when I started to get started. I was about 16 years old, and I've been through a lot more ever since.
That's really interesting. I mean, it's crazy to think that is a normal thing where you have to prepare for gun violence in a school, right? Where we're not talking about a base, we're not talking about somewhere else. It's a school with children as young as that they are. Is that it seems like it's an accepted thing in the US where you have to kind of prepare for those things, and then nothing happens to it because of the Second Amendment. Um, eh, I guess that's what you're saying is that you're tired of this being an accepted thing, and you want change on that perspective.
And it's not even that it's an accepted thing nationwide, because there are states and cities which have enacted background checks, which have enacted license, requirements. They have enacted banning assault weapons in their cities, and the country has even banned assault weapons before, under Bill Clinton. But the biggest issue is lobbying in our country, with corruption kind of being at the forefront. The National Rifle Association, also known as the NRA, they have pretty much made sure every Republican and some Democrats sell out to their constituents and are not passing any legislation or voting on any legislation regarding gun safety or anything remotely close to it.
So do you think it's money, or is it actually, the Second Amendment of, well, my understanding of the Second Amendment is that you need to have the public carry weapons in case of a tyrannical government coming into power, and that allows the people to defend that, or make sure that that tyrannical government never happens because they'll be worried from the people, right? Do you think it's really that, or is it just kind of congressmen and senators being paid to vote in a particular way?
It could definitely be both. I do believe there's people who really are traditionalists in their understanding of the Constitution, and I could definitely, there are definitely people here in Tennessee who see the Constitution as the way it was written in 1700s, or 1800s, and that definitely could be true. But the reality is today that almost every single Republican in the national and state houses and Senate chambers are being paid a few thousand at minimum every single year by the National Rifle Association. And obviously, the farther you go up, the more they're getting. But for sure, it could be both. I think that we have definitely had different ways of thinking with other amendments. when it comes to the First Amendment, we've definitely um, progressed our thinking into what that means, and it seems like we haven't changed the way we view the Second Amendment as a country, where you can still have guns, but in a regular way. And same way we've been doing with speech. You can have speech in written form, in expression form on a T-shirt. You can have freedom of speech in many different ways, um, as long as it doesn't incite violence. And so it's still bothering me that we are interpreting this amendment um, at the cost of thousands of lives.
Yeah, and this is also coming at a time when uh, society is being polarized, where one side views the other as not just someone who disagrees with you, but as someone who is dangerous to the country, as someone who is the enemy, even though you're all part of the same country, you're all part of the same people. And so, when that happens, for example, it's happening all across the world, really. Uh, you know, People say because of different economic factors causing this or immigration, whatever it is. But in a lot of countries, they don't have a lot of weapons. That's the worry with the US is that you guys have a lot of weapons. And that's scary.
Yeah, it's crazy that we have more guns than people in our country, about 400 million guns and firearms in people's houses, and um, it's scary in Tennessee. It's scary to be outside in the public because uh, even though I'm lucky enough to live in Nashville, a really nice city, where we have a little bit more of a progressive viewpoint on things. Being in Tennessee, anyone is allowed to carry a gun with no license openly or concealed. Um, there is no regular uh, way of checking that. There is nothing you can do to stop someone from doing that, to stop someone from having a gun and just walking right next to the target building entrance, and there's no crime being committed. Um, and that's scary. That's scary because at any time I could be in an argument or a confrontation. I could be driving down the road, and I don't know what's going to happen next. So, um, and obviously we've seen studies that are seeing we are not one of the happiest states. We're one of the unhappiest states in the country, and there is a correlation of states who have no gun safety measures in place are some of the unhappiest. It's probably because they're fearing for their lives every day they go get groceries.
Yeah. When you say you don't need a license, what do you mean by that? You don't need a license to carry?
Uh, to carry a gun, so usually you have to get a license to purchase a firearm in America, um, but we don't require one in Tennessee.
So
Um,
anyone can just go in and buy a weapon.
any 18 to 21-year-old, depending on the form of firearm, can buy a gun.
Wow. Okay. And that is only in some states that's allowed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's insane.
Mhm.
Okay, so what is it that you're trying to? Is it the change that you're trying to make when it comes to guns? Is it just more background checks and more? You need a license to buy a gun, which sounds like a common sense thing. Uh,
Yeah.
is that what you're hoping for?
At the very least. I mean, I've talked to every single state senator, state representative, Democrat, Republican. Obviously, every single Democrat is with me on this. They've always been with me. Um, a few Republicans have joined in on agreeing. Sadly, they have a supermajority in both chambers, which means we have 99 state House members. 24 of them are Democrats. The rest, 75, are Republican. In the Senate, we have 4 Democrats, and I believe we have 13, um, around 13 Republicans. So they have twice as many members as we do in both chambers, which means we can't pass anything without them. And obviously, with the Republican governor too, just to add on to it, um, we are every time I've passed by them, talked to them, chatted with them, not giving them money. I am talking to them from a human standpoint, and it seems as though in the moment they agree. They agree that I shouldn't have to fear. They agree that that is an issue. I every time I talk to people, I say Republicans understand that gun violence isn't good. It's just the solution they get to is not one that is backed by any evidence or really sometimes any logic. But they want to keep guns, but they also want to stop gun violence. And sadly, those are two things that are hitting at each other. And at one point, one's got to back away from the other one. So right now, um, I'm obviously been trying for background checks. I've been trying for license requirements. Um, at the end of the day, I believe America should have an assault weapons ban. I don't believe any weapon used for war or used only for killing should be allowed to just be open on our streets. I don't believe that. No one uses an AR-15 for hunting a deer because the deer would explode. You wouldn't get anything from it. Um, we need to take these things seriously, and it's really time we crack down on the things that are harming us right now. Because as of right now, the biggest killer in America for 18 to 24-year-olds or any children are firearms.
Mm.
That is the biggest killer, more than cancer, more than car crashes, more than anything else we can think of.
It seems like what you're saying, you've had a lot of discussions with both parties. What's been the most surprising or eye-opening moment for you, whether it's having those discussions or, working on the campaigns at such a young age?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Even at like a state level, it's pretty insane how, uh, there are a bunch of great people. I didn't know there were great people. I
Great
think
people?
yeah, there are Republicans who, who I will wholly disagree with on every policy. And I talk to them and it feels like I'm talking to my uncle
Okay.
because there are some that are funny. There's some that are pretty smart in some regard to, because some are lawyers, some are, realtors, some are, this is a part-time job in the state house and state senate. So they all have jobs like we do. They all have families. Um, so, I try to think, not to dehumanize them, but when we enter the Capitol and we enter the offices, um, we become more in a generalized sense of people working for people. And so I think one time probably I I had um, I had attended a small meeting with a few people I'm not going to name, but they're members of the state house, and we're talking about gun violence. We're going around the room. There's people who are victims, and there's people who are members of victims, and we kind of start going around the room, and because every time they start, they say, "I have a story to tell," and then they tell their story. And we've had about 10 Republicans so far talk to us and explain why they're not going to vote for it because they're seeing the Constitution, and um, you they say it's a very small case. We'll agree to disagree. But the 11th one, we tell our stories, and by the second person, he says, "Stop! I bet you guys got a lot of stories." He kicks us out,
Mm.
and um, this is a person who I didn't really think was a good person, anyways. Um, but the fact that you have the nerve, as someone who is representing, a district of probably about 60, 70, 80,000 people, and there's a group of people wanting to save their lives. That's our goal. We want to save their lives, and we tell our story of people whose lives were lost, people who were shot and had to recover for a year, and he has the nerve to just tell us, "No, I don't want to listen to your story. I don't want to hear it. I'm definitely not going to support anything to change that."
Mm.
Uh,
It's almost saying, I don't care how many deaths there are. It's not going to change, my views on this.
yeah, if you sometimes you see on TikTok people going up and interviewing right wing supporters, and they'll ask like, if banning assault weapons or universal background checks were the number one way to save every single life in the country, would you support it? And I'll say no.
Mm.
It's not about saving lives, right? It's about keeping guns, keeping their toys to shoot and hunt with their friends. And which again, I can understand having fun. I can understand hunting. I can understand, game show guns. Sometimes people are really obsessed. I know people who own over 50, right? Um, and not out of like a fear thing from the government or not out of a, intimidation thing, but they like it, right? Um, you can't stop that. I can understand it, but it gets to a point where people who shouldn't have guns are walking down the street with them every day. And there is a compromise there, but one side is really unwilling to have conversations.
Mm. Which is which is sad. Do you see your generation as luckier than the previous one with more tools and access to opportunities, or worse off given things like student debt, inflation, housing, and gun violence? How do you see it?
Uh, I'd say we're both, in the way that we have resources. However, we are probably the most oppressed generation in our time. We are growing up with the most politically divided country since the Civil War. We are growing up in a time where everything in the news will hurt us mentally, and if it's not in the news, it's going to hurt us physically in person. Um, that is probably we are probably one of the most unlucky generations in that sense. However, with the tools we have, the internet, social media, which we could be using in a much different way, we could be the luckiest soon because we have the tools. We have the tools to unite each other. We have the tools to spread a message across the entire world. Um, we're not using it adequately. I think social media and the internet are perfect ways and examples to spread a message of unity. I think in Tennessee here, we have been trying to talk to Republicans online, not individually, but through posts and stories. And we're not trying to divide people, right? Social media now is just commenting in someone's Facebook post, and then you have a 20 long chain of messages back and forth about why Trump's better than Lincoln and so on. And you get to a point where now we're not using it for love, we're using it for hate, and that doesn't get us anywhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. You could use it for unity, or you can use it to divide people. The problem is unity, peace doesn't sell as well as division and anger. And it's difficult because you could really the way to influence people is to get them angry. You need to get them angry. That's how you make them take the action that you want them to take. Whether the information that you're providing is false or true, it doesn't matter, because people just react to those things immediately without checking. And let's be honest, we don't have the time to check when we have just bombarded with information 24/7, something that we're not used to. Our brain is not made up for 24/7 cycle of news and things are happening, which is probably contributing to the feeling of depression or things are terrible. I'm not saying things are not. There's great things and there's obviously challenging things. What do you think is the contributors to this generation feeling a bit more depressed? Is it the social media? Is it the news, or is it something else?
It's definitely a great combination of both the social media influence, people who are constantly on there, their whole lives are on there, and now part of their lives are gone from in person. That's a big one. The news is obviously something that um, I like to say we're the most educated on politics and also the most uneducated on politics because we know the headlines, but we don't know the stories because it's all on our phones, but we don't really check it.
Mm.
We see it on our TikTok feed once in every 10 scrolls, but we don't actually see what's going on from at least a nonpartisan standpoint. And then I'd say another one is kind of how we were raised by our parents and our grandparents. Um, Very different attitudes to parenting and very different ways of thinking. I think Gen X and um, not even millennials, but I think Gen X and boomers. I was raised by both a boomer and a Gen X member, so I can attest to the fact that they have their very different ways of thinking, and even though they kind of have similar political views or similar ways of like professions, they have different ways of thinking, and they'll question everything I do and go out. And with social media, I can understand like you want to make sure your kid's safe. Um, I think parents are a little bit of too much influence on kids nowadays, where their child grows up following their religion. They grow up only understanding their own political beliefs. They aren't engaged with anyone else. I think children need to be exposed to other viewpoints early on, and we're not seeing that, right? People call it diversity or DEI, but I think people, or small children, when they're young, right now they're only exposed to one lifestyle. They're only exposed to one way of living, and that's it. And that grows into judgment later on, where we're judging everyone else that's different from us. And now we're here where we are hating people because of very small differences.
Yeah, and it's also you see it online too, because what's being fed to you is based on what you're engaging with online. So you are only kind of interacting in a particular way, and what's being shown to you, this what you think is reality, is very different to what someone else is being shown on their social media based on what they're interacting with. So you're kind of seeing a very singular point of view in this world of what's right and what's wrong, which I think, as my generation, which is the millennial generation, we haven't, it wasn't as heavy or as exposed to that environment from an early age of just that one singular point of view. And so it becomes very difficult to accept other views and engage from a point of understanding that other point of view instead of challenging or saying, that's wrong, and that's why that's wrong, kind of immediately, without being inquisitive or curious about those things, right?
Right.
Yeah. Um, so when it comes to the issues that matter most to Gen Z voters right now, you mentioned gun violence. Is there anything else that you feel is very kind of focused for Gen Z that is different to maybe older generations?
Yeah. So, I mean, as young people, we are on average a bit more progressive on our policies. We are obviously, even though we are in America, and I am saying, I just had the conversation a week ago with a congressional candidate for U.S. Congress in Nashville. Uh, he's on a great platform of no corruption and DC, education, healthcare. However, he doesn't have a stance on foreign policy. Uh, Young people are taking notice of everything that happens, not just in America, but everywhere else. And there are a bunch of legislators who choose to ignore that. And we are taught in history class every day, what happened, in the world, and who was on one side, who was on the other side, and who stood up for what was right. And what we are seeing in Gaza, and what we are seeing in Ukraine, what we are seeing in many different places across the world, uh, it's horrifying. And the fact that we claim to be the best country in the world, we claim to be the most powerful country in the world, we claim to be um, the smartest and the hottest country in the world, we don't help anyone else. We don't stand for what's right outside of our own boundaries. Uh, we can't keep this nationalistic and patriotic look when we don't share those values across the world. We're a member of the UN. Um, and it's horrifying that we have people in Congress every day. We have two parties who are fighting against each other on lots of issues, but then there's only one issue that they really come together on, and it's the one that literally majority of America hates. It's the side of genocide, because in 100 years from now, my grandkids or great grandkids are going to be learning about this issue, and I want to make sure our country's on the right side of history, not the wrong side.
Mm.
I want to make sure they're reading it, that America stepped up and we stopped aiding Israel, and we stopped the corruption that they've been, enlightening us with tens of thousands of dollars going to state house members in Tennessee. Imagine how much money is going to the president or the vice president or the senators or everywhere else in America or purple state. And uh, it's a huge issue and a huge topic to cover. I can't say everything in a minute, but obviously, this is a huge issue to Gen Z people. We are aware of what's going on. We are not blind to this. And every day we keep asking ourselves, why aren't we doing anything about this?
Yeah. And that's, I guess, one of the positive things about social media, which is now you get to actually see what's happening. America, for example, has been involved in a lot of wars, but typically you don't see what's happening on the ground. You get the information as it's filtered through the different filters that, the media has. But now you're seeing what's going on the ground, and there's no escape. There's no more hiding of those situations of who the U.S. is supporting. And so I think that has been very, eye-opening for a lot of people, because a lot of people will see that, America is considered as a democracy, freedom of people, but it can support dictators if they support America. It can remove democracies if it makes sense for American politics. And so that's interesting now, because I've lived in the Middle East, so these things I've been, we are very aware of it in the Middle East. But it's interesting how now everyone's aware of it, of what's happening, and it's been happening for decades in U.S. foreign policy. I have seen that big change also with especially the younger generation, for sure.
Well, yeah, we just had the state legislators. We had at least one state house member from every single state in America fly to Israel. I think
Yeah,
at
that's
least
crazy. That was crazy. I saw that. Yeah.
They posted with Netanyahu, and right after the UN voted, or not voted, but they said that there was a genocide on Palestine, and that was just like less than a day after they announced that. And I was just sitting here thinking, like, I couldn't find who it was from Tennessee, but I was really looking hard, and I was just thinking, like, you fly to Israel, fly back, and I want to know how many constituents you helped. How many constituents did you help on that trip? Because that took a few days, right? A few days of work, a few days of going out to eat, get a fancy steak, have all your hotel rooms paid for, all your flights paid for. How many constituents did you help? How many people did you give healthcare access to? How many people did you give education access to? How many people were fed from that flight? If the answer is 0, you're doing something wrong. You're not helping people. You're doing the opposite. You're wasting people's time. Because if you're not going to do anything, we'll elect someone new. We'll elect someone new who can actually help us, right? And it angers me when people don't just leave and get up for some photograph, but do it knowingly that, maybe unknowingly, that they're the symbol of a genocide, they're a symbol of war. And yeah, it's crazy to me that this is still happening today.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not aware that at least there are war crimes happening in Israel, then it's very hard to argue that you're not aware. Now when every international agency has confirmed it, there isn't any I'm aware of that said it's not a genocide, or it's not no war crimes have been committed. So it's either
But
or you're just ignoring what's been said.
yeah, but all the sources are biased, of course. It's interesting how Netanyahu has really taken notes from Trump. People kind of say the opposite, but Netanyahu has used Trump playbook for a long time. He has denied all reporters any chance of ethos. He has said every single source against him is wrong. They're all propaganda from the other side. He has said that I have one source that says this is what it is, and if you don't believe me, then you're wrong, and you hate this country. And it's just people who are saying this is a genocide. We're not saying it because we hate the existence of Israel. We're not saying it because we hate the existence of Jewish people. We are saying it because, from a non-biased standpoint, this is what it looks like. We just want peace. We want human lives to be saved. We want all human lives to be saved. No one deserves to die, in my opinion. I don't believe in the death penalty here in America. unless you are someone who is actively trying to kill people and are not going to be stopped by any means, no one should be able to be killed for anything regarding anything like that. And so yeah, Gen Z is taking notice. We are taking notice, and it's not just Democrats too. This is you're seeing the far right and far left come together on one singular issue, and it's the issue that Congress will never act on until we unelect them from Congress. We have one Democrat in Tennessee who is in Congress. He is almost 80 years old. He's been reelected longer than I've been alive, and he is one of the biggest contributors and receivers from AIPAC. This is a big issue for me particularly. I am every day fighting against AIPAC's influence. I'm checking where their money is going every day, and we contact those people. We ask, why did you get this amount of money, and what are you going to do with this money, and are you planning to have any policy introduced or legislation introduced, regarding this issue? And usually we don't get a response, but when we do get a response, it's usually it's the same answer. I will always defend Israel's right to defend itself and its state. And I said, I didn't ask about that. I'm asking, what are you going to do? And so now we kind of live in the society of just, copy and paste statement. And because it's funny we talking about this because I talked to my dad. He is a regular establishment Democrat. He's been that way for a very long time. He's baby boomer age. And I talked to him about it the first time like a year ago. He's like, yeah, but we have to protect Israel. And I asked the first question I could think of, why? Why do we have to protect Israel? Why? He goes, because I was told to, right? I was taught to from a very young age. It's not just recently we've been doing this, right? It's been forever. We just haven't taken notice until they commit the biggest war crimes ever that they have done. They've committed others, but this is the one that got media attention, right? So now it's about educating more people, not just the young people. Once we unite the country, I believe we can change things there. But
yeah. I think what was also eye-opening for a lot of people was I don't know if you saw that Ted Cruz interview with what's his name? What's the guy called?
I don't know the name, but are you talking about shoot? Yeah,
Tucker Carlson. Yeah, where he asked Ted Cruz about why, and for him it was a religious thing, and because it's in the Bible that the chosen people and God's chosen country, and I think for a lot of people they at that moment realized that for a lot of people in Senate and Congress, not for all of them, but for I think a good chunk of them, it is also a religious thing. Because it's in the Bible, and they believe that is connected to the current Israeli country as opposed to the biblical Israel. And obviously, there's the AIPAC, element to it, where they had they ensured that this is enshrined into the religious context for people.
Yeah, it's definitely people who are saying this is religious. They are the most uneducated people on this issue. They see the word Israel and they say, "Oh, good," and they don't really think past it. In the Bible, I forgot which part of land it was, but Israel today is not the same Israel as it is in the Bible, right? Israel today was established in 1948. Israel today does not they do not house Jesus Christ. They certainly don't now, and that's it's concerning to me that we are there's people who are claiming to be Christian. They claim to be Christian today, and they support a genocide openly. They support taking food away from children in school. They support taking away healthcare to seniors and children, and they do it from their own place too. They take away their own healthcare with their votes, and they take away their own food, and they take away their own minimum wage. So it's now a part of people are using religion to their benefit when it comes to politics. Now they're saying you have to elect me if you're a Christian, and then they go and just give all the money to the wealthy people, which is the opposite of what anything Jesus told them to do. it's a huge grift now where people are, will wear a big cross on their chest with the chain, and they'll start talking about why, it's a good thing that Mark Zuckerberg got $100 million more today. So
Yeah,
it's a huge thing across every issue you can look at in America, especially.
100%. Yeah. It seems like, Generation Z is, or as you say, Z, is very kind of now motivated, energized, and want to be involved. However, you can't vote for, because voting is 18. And so for a lot of people, they can't vote. Interestingly, in the UK, they're reducing the voting age from 18 to 16. Do you think that the voting age should be reduced to 16? Would that strengthen democracy or just, politicize kids too early?
It's hard to put a number on it. It's hard to, put an exact placement. I'd say it's the political education has changed drastically among young people. Um, I believe that if you can serve in the military, you can, vote for your country. So I think 18 is at least a good place. 16 is an interesting option. 17 is an interesting option. I'd say when I look around at my peers, sometimes in Tennessee, sometimes I'm glad they can't vote uh, just yet
Right.
because it is scary now in states like Tennessee. They're not putting in regular curriculums or things that are regular teachings. In Oklahoma, obviously, they're putting in the 10 Commandments in every classroom, right? Texas, they're trying to do the same thing. And you have, Florida taking out, vaccines for some reason in schools. They're taking out anything related to DEI, any African American studies. We're not getting the same education, right? We once were in person, but we're getting a much different education online. It's hard to put an age. I'd say personally, we need to keep it at 18 on a national scale. These red states who are stripping away not just education access in general because they want to fund more private schools, but also because they aren't teaching their kids the right way of thinking, which I hate saying the right way, but from a nonpartisan standpoint, teach them history, teach English, teach science and math. And for some reason, that statement is political. um, so, when it comes to politics, we're not civically educated. I live in Tennessee, which is the 51st place in America in voter turnout. We are even behind Washington, D.C. We are 51st in the state. About 30-something% of our constituents turn out to vote, not because they're not interested, but because they're not educated. If they were educated about this issue, then they'd be interested. So there's stuff like that, and not just Tennessee, but every other red state, right? You'll see a correlation of red states who are not voting simply because they were told not to. They were never taught about the issue. They were never taught civics. If we mandated civics, if we mandated U.S. history and U.S. government classes, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But there's people who want to hold on to power, and they understand that if people are any point, educated on the issue, that they'll turn against them, and they don't want people to have power. So, I think once we get to that point, I would definitely lower the age. But because I think 16 and 17-year-olds can be very mature. They can be very, in tone. I like to say I was an example of that when I organized a rally or two, and I helped manage a few campaigns, and when I helped, lead discussions with Republicans on what we can agree with when we can't. And we need to get a few more steps before we think about lowering it first.
Yeah, no, I agree. It could happen in the future, but there needs to be a lot of work. And to be honest, I think it's scary if you lower the age to 16, and I'm a bit worried in the UK that that's happening. Jacob, are you excited about the future or more worried about the future?
Living in these times, I have to be excited about the future because anything from now will be better. Any candidate in the presidential race across pretty much any platform or political party will be better than whatever is happening now. I am fearful for the next 3 months or the 3 years. Excuse me. It feels like 3 years already passed. But you have to look forward to it, right? Um, Bernie Sanders, who is one of my, you know, one of the people I look up to every day. Uh, he's an 84-year-old man, and he's preaching things that every 20-year-old is thinking. Why can't I live without student loan debt? Why can't I live without medical debt? He's talking about these things, much closer to getting into heaven than any of us, right? He is talking about a lot of different issues from every standpoint of the average American. Having been in DC for 30 something years, he's still, in touch with America. Um, and if his platform is progressed into 3 years with another candidate, a few other candidates with his platforms, more people are um, running with this platform of helping people first. I look forward to it. I'm looking forward to 2026 elections and midterms because we have a lot of congressional candidates that are running on platforms to help people in Republican areas in Iowa and Montana and Idaho, places that I kind of forgot existed for a little bit that are now up for grabs. In Tennessee, we were obviously gerrymandered. We had one district covering Tennessee or Nashville, which was very, very blue. And in 2020, we cut Nashville into three pieces. The very middle of it is a Krispy Kreme donut shop, and it goes out into all the rural counties. And now they're all three red districts. So now those districts are slowly turning more blue, simply because of the current administration, but also because people are realizing, not just in political parties, but again, it's not a right versus left issue. It's a top versus bottom issue. I love to quote James Tellerico on that. And we are now all addressing the fact that people are getting richer at the top and none of us are being helped at the bottom. Not even just the bottom too. It's like people are making $10 million are worse off now than they were, 4 years ago under Biden. They're losing money. And so if anyone that's making $10 million and under can sympathize with each other, I think anything's possible.
Fair enough. Yeah. And, for the generation Z, what's, I guess, your message for them in terms of how they can get involved and how to manage the kind of roller coaster of politics in a healthy way?
Yeah, because they already are kind of doing that on their own, but it's harder to do it on your own. It's good to have people with you. It's good to have people to talk to on a regular basis. Um, I'm lucky enough to have people who are very involved in politics to talk to about what's really going on, what's happening around the city or around the state. And uh, I would say when you look at those notifications on your phone from all the news stories popping up, it's important to sometimes take a break. I um, I haven't taken a break in a while, but
Maybe
the
that's
last time
that's
I
a
did,
message for you then, I guess.
it's also a message for me. I do need a break. Um, but it's also the fact that when I did, I was elected chair of the high school Democrats in Tennessee, and that next day I went off on a cruise. Um, took 7 days off from Wi-Fi and a bunch of other stuff. I was very fortunate to go on it, and um, I got to see a bunch of different places I've never been before. And there's lots of great things to life, right? Politics is kind of a made up thought. It's kind of just something that we did. It's not something that we are always had. Um, it's a idea, and you got to think about this in the way that sometimes it can affect all of us sometimes, but it can also if it affects all of us, that means we can all change it together. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Take a break too, because you'll need it. But also remember, yeah, anything can change. Nothing's constant or obstinate right now. We saw that with this past election already. We changed presidencies, we changed Senate and House majorities from blue to red, and we can change it back very easily with a simple message.
Yeah.
So,
And how will what's your recommendation for people to maybe get engaged into politics or engage more with politics?
oh yes, please. I was just a regular high school student when I reached out to my state house members, my state senate members, my city council member, my school board member. They read their emails. Uh, that's kind of their job, right? They have to know what their constituents want, right? So you can look up online, simple Google search, find their emails, find their phone numbers. You can call them. You can share your thoughts at any point, on any given day. You can leave them a voicemail at any time, whether it's 12 a.m. in the morning or 12 p.m. in the afternoon. You can do whatever you want. You can give a message. You can let your congressman know your thoughts, and your senators, your governor, your president. You can call the White House right now. Um, you can always share your message and share your beliefs with anyone. Uh, that has power. I know from experience that state house, state senate members especially, they have to read every letter. They have to read every email. They have to answer every call and hear every voicemail, because your voice matters. Your voice is a vote. Your voice is power. Um, don't forget that. It's very important.
100%. Yep. Your voice is powerful and it matters. Love it. Jacob, this has been a pleasure really speaking to you. If people wanted to see your journey, reach out to you, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram on at Jacob A. Francy. That's probably my only place.
Thank you so much, Jacob. It's been great
Thank you very
speaking to
much.
you.
You as well.